So I went out clubbing the other night, and what a fiasco that was. We already lived in a dystopia 10, 15, 20 years ago when I used to go clubbing. And now it's just gone even further. I mean, it's just even more depraved. The music is worse, which is amazing when you consider, I mean, last time I went clubbing it was, yeah, it's your birthday. Yeah, it's your birthday. I mean, that shit is fucking retarded, right? And it's actually worse now. It's actually worse than that now. Like, I don't even remember the song that I was thinking of specifically, but I mean, it was like at every damn club, and it was over and over again. Just, everybody, you know, all the chicks practically naked, all the dudes wearing the same exact fucking outfit, and all of them just broken beyond repair. All of them. You could see it in their faces, you know? It's why they're there. They have no fundamental understanding of the reality in which they live. So they're out there, you know, trying to drink alcohol and get laid in the worst possible circumstances. It's just fucking horrible. I mean, you know, the only thing that you can do in that situation is be physically attracted just based on looks. I mean, there's no way you can actually smell them. There's no way you can actually get to know them or hear them or anything. I mean, you could literally just see them, and that's it. And, you know, side note, they look like fucking skanks. Every goddamn one of them. Everybody's dressed like a fucking whore. Everybody in that whole place. And all 3 clubs I went to. There wasn't one single young lady there who was dressed decently, like a decent human being. And, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm going to come off like some kind of super conservative, you know, hardline Christian, but, and I'm not at all. You know, I used to consider myself a super devout atheist. I still kind of do, honestly, because I've looked at the archaeology and looked at the history of all the religions, and I can't buy any of it just based on the history of the text itself. I mean, the Bible itself is a rehash of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is like 10,000 years old, way before Jesus. I mean, you know, why do you think Moses was in Egypt and all that stuff? You know what I mean? Because the entire Bible is based on an older Egyptian religious text. That's why there's all these sections about Egypt that, you know, the Jews, you know, and the Old Testament and all that part of the Bible is like from a completely different part of the world, completely different era. So it's like, how did this all get mixed in together with like ancient Egypt? And it's like, well, because it's not the original copy of the book. It's a plagiarized text. But what's interesting about this plagiarized text is that we know that the Egyptians had technology way beyond what the civilizations after them had. Up to and including possibly today. We don't even know the full extent of what kind of technology the ancient Egyptian civilization had. Certainly, the Great Pyramid just alone is a engineering marvel that we would have a difficult time duplicating today. Nor could you find, you know, the corporation who could put together that budget. So that's interesting as well. But so it's not just a technological gap that we have in our society with ancient Egypt, but it's also an economic or organizational gap that we've got. But, I mean, as a result, I think that there's some wisdom in the Bible from this advanced technological civilization that has been passed down that we ignore at our own peril. And I ignored it myself. You know, when I figured out that religion and the Bible and everything was, you know, that it wasn't what it was being represented to me as by all these different zealots, you know, I threw all of it away out of hand. And now I think that was a mistake, because I believe there was a lot of wisdom in that book. Scientific wisdom. I mean, here's the thing. And I went over this a little bit in my previous video. Men and women are not equal. Period. I mean, you can claim you want them to be equal, you can claim they deserve to be treated equal, you can claim all kinds of stuff, but the reality of the situation is we are not the same. We are not created equally. Men inject their DNA into women. It's a fundamentally different design for men and women. And you can't ignore that. And knowing what I know now, based on that, it's clear to me that at least the part of the Bible where you're supposed to be a virgin until married makes great scientific sense. You know, a woman who's had all kinds of different conflicting DNA injected inside her by all these multiple different partners is going to be inherently flawed and broken for the partner that she ends up settling down with or wanting to have kids with or whatever. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to believe that. Nobody wants to think about that. But that is the reality. That genetic programming, that DNA that has been injected into that woman has fundamentally changed her. And there's a lot of I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can get into the science behind that and study that and get interested in that. And I encourage you to do so. But you know, the reality is nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to think about that. You know, oh no. You know, I mean, and you know, we wonder sometimes at the double standard that society has about men going out and sleeping with, you know, a ton of different women and women going out and sleeping with a ton of different men. You know, and none of us, you know, give credence to the fact that there's a physical difference between men and women that might give some of that double standard some kind of scientific backing. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. But is it reality? Well, it kind of is reality. I mean, just think about it, you know? Women have male DNA injected into them, you know? Their genetic programming is actually changed to some extent by every partner they've ever had. In fact, some of that genetic material ends up in their brains, according to a bunch of different studies. You know, and people said, oh, Snopes debunked it or whatever, and it's like, no, Snopes actually said, if you read the article, it says false in big red letters at the top, but if you actually read the article, it says more research needs to be done, which more research needs to be done just means, you know, we can't equivocally say one way or the other about it. It certainly doesn't disprove it. I know you don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to think about that, but that is a fact. The physical design of men and women is different and inexorably unfair. That's just how it is. Yeah, so anyway, I'm out at this club and there's all these people, you know, and it's so bizarre. Like, all these women are so valued so much higher than dudes. I mean, there's 1 million dudes at these clubs and, you know, 500,000 women at these clubs. And all these dudes are kind of holla at all these different girls. And 10 or 15 or 20 of those dudes already hollered at that girl last week, the week before, the week before, the week before, the week before. You know, it's not like this is the first night these girls went out clubbing, and it's not like on one of those nights they didn't meet with some dude and go bang him. You know what I mean? Probably 90+% of them did meet up with at least one dude at least one of these weekends and go home and fucking bang him, or wherever they went, to his house, whatever. And now she's got all that conflicting DNA in her body, in her brain, and that makes her much less valuable for procreation, much less valuable for a relationship, much less valuable on every level, physically less valuable. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to think about that. You know, you talking about it makes you a misogynist and a sexist and you know, but that's the reality of the situation. And Yeah, I mean, and there's all these dudes in line fighting each other to talk to, you know, a handful of attractive young women who aren't, you know, obese or old or any of the, you know, things that would make them less attractive physically. I mean, but that's it, though. I mean, you know, never mind that all these people are broken, all of them, dudes and chicks alike. I mean, you could just see it in their faces. They are broken. They are inherently flawed mentally. You know, they live in a society where all of these behaviors are okay. It's all they've ever known. It's the only exposure to the world that they've had, and they think it's normal to be jammed packed in these rooms, elbows to buttholes, as my friend Matt enjoyed. They think that's normal to be jam packed in these rooms, listen to the trying to buy shitty GMO liquor, hoping to lower the barriers to entry towards having some kind of companionship, some kind of physical intimacy with somebody else. And it's like, it's just the lowest common denominator of everything, like of quality of relationship, of type of relationship, like how it makes you feel about yourself, how it makes you feel about your peers, how your peers feel about you. I mean, just all of it. It's just not good at all. And that's the world we live in today. And it's sad, man. It's sad. I got kids. Not that I get to see them, ever. Lord knows I shacked up with somebody who had all kinds of conflicting DNA in her brain. Had kids with her, too. Like an idiot. I mean, you know. And there were warning signs there, you know. There were warning signs that she was a hoe, you know. And I ignored them, you know. I ignored those warning signs because, I mean, wishful thinking, right? I mean, that's the number one human weakness, is wishful thinking. We want to wishful think that this person's not going to be a hoe after we get married. Or we want to wishful think that this person, you know, won't be a hoe after we have kids. Or we want to wishful think that this person won't be a hoe. No, they were a hoe when you met them. They were a hoe when you banged them after the club. And now, you know, you've got money or some other asset that she finds appealing, and she thinks she's going to stick with you for a while, and you think you're going to stick with her for a while. She's still a hoe. Still a hoe. You know? And what's the alternative? Is to be like, you know, brainwashed by some religious cult and to, you know, into believing all that stuff and only being stuck with, you know what that is, etc. It's like, damn, man. Reality is bleak. It is bleak, and it is unfair. And everybody's making really poor life decisions. Because the instruction books that we've been handled, whether that's the Bible or our parents or whatever, are terrible instruction manuals. They're not giving you the lowdown, the skinny. They're not giving you any of the why. Why is it good to wait to be married, to have kids, to keep your virginity till married? Why? Well, now we have scientific evidence and knowledge about why. But the Bible didn't tell you that. So you're like, well, screw that. You know, the drive to procreate, the drive for companionship is so strong, you know, that people are going to find a way to do that anyway. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to fix society? How are we going to fix how broken everything and everybody is? Religion ain't doing it. Science ain't doing it. Our education system? Man, don't even get me started. It's like we've all been doing Common Core life skills for the last 50 years. Like, i.e., the opposite of what you should be doing with your life. All right, internet fam. I don't know what else to say about all that. It just makes me sad. I'm sad for everybody. Live in a broken world, full of broken people, doing broken things. I don't have a whole lot of answers right now. I don't have answers to all this. You know, I mean, even on a personal level, like, what are my answers? You know what I mean? I got screwed over by this whore. You know, which, my fault, honestly, my fault. You know, as soon as I had kids, man, I changed everything. I didn't want to party. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to holler at other chicks. None of it, man. As soon as I had kids, I wanted to be a dad. That was it. I wanted to eat healthy food, maybe grow healthy food, educate those kids, help them as best as I can. And all that got taken from me because, why? I hooked up with some whore who'd already been with, like, 10, 15, 20 other dudes. Who knows? So much conflicting DNA already in that mess. But I was like, oh, no, it's going to be fine. As soon as we get married, it's going to be fine. Oh, no. Okay, she's still getting calls and texts and stuff from her ex-boyfriends and other dudes, etc. Okay, as soon as we have kids, it's going to be fine. Then we have kids, and she's still getting calls and texts and whatever and all this other stuff from other dudes. It's like, it was my own damn fault. I was a fool. They were a hoe before. They're going to continue to be a hoe. Very few people set that line in the sand and stay on the other side of the line. And hats off to those people who do. Respect, but can't help but think it would have been better to find somebody who was a virgin, marry them. Maybe it would have been better if I was a virgin too. I mean, does the genetic material exchange only go one way? I mean, obviously it mostly goes one way, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, we just don't know enough about all this. Scientifically, we don't know. And we're not even doing the studies. Those studies aren't even funded because there's no money behind it. Is a corporation going to make money with people being, celibate until married and then monogamous for life? Is that a way for corporations to make money on that? Because otherwise, when are we going to fund the study that, shows scientifically that there's benefits there? There are benefits there. You can see them if you know people who live like that, who happen to be in, religious cults or whatever. Love to you guys. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just, it is what it is. You've made life decisions, proper life decisions based on belief in a book that I believe is overwhelmingly false, but has some truths in it, probably because they stole a lot of it from a previous civilization that had a lot more intelligence and knowledge than those goat herders did. Yeah, so what's the answer? What's the answer? What's step 2, We're here in this broken situation, this broken society, all these broken families. What do we do next? Where do we go? Where do we go from here? I don't fucking know. Honestly. I don't know. Have a good one, Internet fam.